Hello friends, it's Cindy Brumbaugh from CindyLeeBDesigns.com, independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Today I have a card that I was inspired to make after seeing a video by Jennifer McGuire where she cut up the panels on the front of her card to peek through a sentiment. So I loved her card so much I looked to my Stampin' Up! Stamps and found this big beautiful bloom here in the Band Together stamp set, and then I used birch for my background, and then I used the bloom and grow for this nice sentiment to go across there and on the inside. So let me show you what I came up with. And today, live, we're going to do something different on this card. We're going to actually pop up these cut up panels here with some fun foam like Jennifer did. So here we go, setting our stamp sets aside. You can see we have a nice neutral palette here of crumb cake, and we have black and white. So what we're going to do is have our card base open with a portrait style, and it's going to open here from the bottom, and it is going to be 11 inches by 4 1/4, and we're going to score it at 5 1/2. And then it'll be a portrait style card. And then we're going to be putting this black border on, and you're just going to have a 1/8 inch border around the whole 4 sides, and that's going to make it 4 inches by 5 1/4. And then we're going to go yet in one more size for our stamped panel, and that is going, oh no, actually, we're going in 2 sizes here. So we'll be going in another crumb cake here. And this crumb cake is going to be 3 3/4 by 5, and yet one more layer for our stamped panel, and that's 3 1/2 by 4 3/4. Don't worry about scribbling all these things down. They're on my blog. If you go into the search bar under my photo on the right side of my blog, CindyLeeBDesigns.com, you can put in there the stamp set Band Together or Bloom and Grow, the stamp sets I used on this card, and you will be taken to a link, and you'll go right there and you'll see all the products I used, all the colors I used, all the measurements, and you can watch the video of how to do it. So we're also going to put inside a white panel that's 4 by 5 1/4. Okay, let's get started here. I'm going to set this aside here. So looking at the card, we really just have to get this panel made here. So what I'm going to do is use this piece of 3 1/2 by 4 3/4, and I am going to stamp my birch background. Now the way I do stamping with my background stamps, I find the easiest way to do that is to just take a piece of either computer paper. I always have these extra pieces left over from class, and what I just do is put, this is the better side here. Oh no, I have a little flaw there. Let me see. There we go. Okay, and then what I do is I take my stamp set, my background one, and I put it out on my piece of paper there. And then I think I had it that way. So then I'll just ink up, and it seems that my crumb cake is notoriously a little bit dry all the time. I don't know if it's just the stamp pad itself, but this will be nice because I just want a subtle background. Oh gosh, guys, I was probably making you dizzy with all the shaking there. Sorry about that. Then I just put my paper directly onto the background, and then I just close my paper up, and then I just get I'm shaking again. I have a nice stable table here, but it does shake whenever you're getting crazy with your stamps. So please forgive me for that shaking there. Okay, so then we'll just open it up, and we've got a beautiful birch background there. We'll get rid of our scratch paper there and put our birch background off to the side. Close that crumb cake. So now we've got our background done. So I'm going to bring my Stamparatus in here because I'm going to do, this is actually embossed, okay? And we do have black embossing powder. However, I usually have issues of getting little black flecks places. Even if I use my embossing buddy, it notoriously does that for me. So I do the little trick of stamping in my ink color and then putting Versamark over it and putting clear embossing powder. Then if you have a stray, it's just clear. It's not a black stray. So what I would do here is I'm going to take a stamp set and put it underneath my Stamparatus here. It gives me a nice solid base to stamp. And what you would do is put your paper in there, and then I have it set, and I'm just going to put some memento on here. Trying not to shake my camera. You guys will have to take anti-nausea medication before you watch my video. And then I'm just going to stamp the black, okay? So you just get a nice firm pressure there. And the nice thing about the Stamparatus is, I didn't put my magnet down, but I'm confident that it was good. So there we've got the black. So the next thing I would do is wipe off my, let me get my chamois out here. And I would wipe off the black off of my stamp, because now I'm going to be using Versamark, and I don't want to muddy up my Versamark ink pad because this one's relatively new. So then I would just ink this up with Versamark, nice coating of that Versamark. And I call Versamark almost like an invisible ink because it's like invisible. And so then you're going to go right down on the same place over the black. Now you actually have Versamark on here. You would just take clear embossing powder and you would put your clear embossing powder off, shake it off, go over to your heat gun and get a nice embossed black image there. Okay, so we are, well, one thing I'm going to do is take this little wipe I have here and just get this off of here because that's just asking for an accident. Okay, so I'm going to set my Stamparatus aside with my ink pads and bring back the card, because now I have this beautiful stamped image that I did the birch background first, then I did the black image with my Stamparatus, then I went back, cleaned my stamp off, put the stamp Versamark onto the black, and then I heat embossed it with clear embossing powder. And then I just colored it here. And I used the dark daffodil and the dark old olive. And I just noticed I have a little piece of white peeking through here. So there we go. And I just colored those in, and I've got a big, beautiful bloom here. Now Jennifer does her things a couple different ways, but then I just took a piece of, this happens to be 3/4 of an inch wide, and that's about what I wanted to fit with this stamp here. So this stamp I thought just it would fit in about 3/4 of a space. So I stamped it on a strip of, and then I put it where I would want it. Now, the next step that I'm going to do is going to be drawing some lines for you. So I'm going to put it actually like where I wanted it to be. Okay. So what I did is I saw on my card, okay, I'm kind of doing things backwards because I wanted to make sure that we had this all done right. So what you would do, this is actually not the step you're doing. You're actually just stamping your sentiment to where you wanted it to be, okay? So you just stamp your sentiment, place it onto the card where you want it to be, and then just use some temporary adhesive to put it where you want it to be. It just happens to be, when I did that before camera, whoa, it ended up, I guess what I'm trying to do is I had it perfectly placed on here, but it really doesn't matter what I'm doing right this second here. So all I'm doing is confusing you. So once you have your sentiment placed exactly where you want it, because see what I did when I did this is I had it perfectly set so the whole word wonderful went on there. But when I flipped it over here to show you where it actually was, there you go. So once I had that on exactly where I wanted it on the front, I then put it onto I went to the back and I made a pencil mark, and I took my ruler and I just went from one edge of the white to the other edge. And then I took my ruler here and I put a pencil mark here. So then I knew exactly that space that was going to be cut out. Now, recall, I kind of did it backwards because I did this before the video so I wouldn't mess up. So hopefully I didn't. But you just put you put your sentiment exactly where you want it, tape it down, turn it over, and make pencil lines where that sentiment's going to be. Then you can just take that off, set it aside, and now you know exactly where you're going to cut those panels. So what we're going to do is pull out our Stampin' trimmer, and we're going to just cut along those lines there. We're just going to put the one pencil mark there and the other pencil mark there. And we are going to cut right along that one pencil line. And that's one piece that's going to go right on there. And then we're just going to slide it over and we're going to line up that other pencil line that we drew from there to there. Make sure we've got it in place there, and we're going to cut that piece out. And now we have that piece there. Okay, so we have this piece that we cut out. Now we're going to be putting that, let's move this aside here. Now we're going to be putting these pieces on here and putting our stamping in there. Okay, so what we're going to do on this card here is we're going to go back to the layers that we have. So we had the layer of crumb cake that I put this image on. Okay, there we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look and see how that's going to work. Now I could use my Stamparatus to stamp this sentiment, but I think I have a pretty good view here of this, so I'm just actually going to use my block here. So what we're going to do is put this down, but we're just going to put it down with a little piece of temporary adhesive right now. So this isn't my snail, it's just a temporary adhesive, and I want to put it exactly where I wanted it to be. Okay, so just like I said, temporary adhesive, you could use your Tombow, a little dot of Tombow, and then you would let it dry so it was tacky, and then you're just temporarily putting it on here because what we're going to do is raise it up in a moment, but I don't want to raise it up before I stamp it in case the stamp would catch on the raising. Okay, so now we have this space here. See that space that was created? Well, it's a little bit different here because of the orientation of the card. Oh wait, did I cut that the right way? Let me see. Yes, okay. It's like when you're tearing it apart. Oh, girls and guys, I'm sure you're really confused with what I'm doing now. Okay, so anyhow, we're gonna put this sentiment into here. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and ink up the wonderful, okay? So I'm gonna do that. Not on my desk, if I can get one thing right today. Okay, so, oh, I see a little bit of puddling there. Okay, so we put our black aside, and I'm going to pull this down. I'm going to pull it down. I hope it's still on camera for you guys. And I'm going to stamp right inside that space, making sure I get that small L at the top. And then I'm just going to firm pressure down there and just pray, Lord, that this turns out for me. And it did. Yay, the L caught perfectly inside there. So now we have our sentiment stamped in there. Now what I'm going to do here is whenever I had turned over this piece of white, so actually this could be an easy way to show you this. Ha! I just figured out how to fix my mistake and make my video way longer than you guys wanted to watch. Once you have your image done, this was before we colored it and embossed it, what you do is put the sentiment exactly where you would want it to be, okay? That's where I wanted the sentiment to go, right there. Then I turned it over, and that's when I made these lines. Why didn't I think of showing you this way before? So then I just drew my lines like that. Okay, so that's where these lines came from watching the placement of that strip. That makes it super easy because really you just stamp it where you want it, then you come back and you just cut this part out because you know that this is going to fit in that slot. Okay, so again, recapping it, you're stamping it, putting the sentiment exactly where you want it, turning it over, making lines so that you have a place where you know exactly where that sentiment's going to cut out, and then you're going to end up with this piece and this piece, which were these two pieces. And then I just adhered them onto the crumb cake first, and after I had that blank space, then I came back in and stamped the sentiment there. But before I did that, I also took a piece of fun foam and I cut it just a scotch smaller than 3.5 by 4 3/4. So just a little tinier than I needed to cover the whole thing. So you can see that you see the edge goes all around. There's just a little bit of edge. And what I did is I made a line that was a little wider than the initial line that I made. So this line is a little bit wider because I want this fun foam to go under here, but I don't want any of it showing. So what you would do here, and you can just use your scissors on this one because it doesn't matter. So what I'm going to do is just cut a little bit off side of that line. And of course, these pieces are going to be a tad smaller than the actual panels. Okay, so this is garbage now. So now we are going to take off these temporarily adhered panels here, and we are going to put this fun foam under here. So now this is going to be brought up off the card. Oh, that was just a genius. As you can see, once I watched Jennifer's video, I was just all taken with fun foam. It's awesome. So we're going to put some glue on our panel, and we're going to put our fun foam. See how it just is a tad smaller all around there. And then we're going to put some glue on there and put it on our fun foam as well. And you can see that the fun foam is a little smaller than the panel. And then we are going to put some glue. And it's nice to use glue because you have that wiggle room when you're putting it onto the card. So we're going to put this panel onto the crumb cake. And as I said, it's a little awkward when you need to be a lot taller to do this. And then put my bottom panel on, and look at how cool. And because we have a little bit of wiggle room with the glue, it's nice because I can play around a little bit to get that. And look at the effect of the difference in having this raised portion. And of course, it won't be till I take a photo of the card after I'm done that I'll see if it's crooked. So then I wanted to pop this off the card with some black because it really made the detail of the image and the sentiment. And so, you know what Cindy B would do with this. She would just go in and not waste all that black. Now, normally I would just go ahead and do like a rectangle stitch, but there I just took and made 2 labels. I'll use those labels for something. Waste not, want not. And then I'm just going to go ahead and put some glue around the edges here and adhere that to my black. Get a nice equal 1/8 inch border around all 4 sides. And then it doesn't matter because this is getting covered, but I was able to use my black cardstock on something else. Sometimes I'll open up my little drawers with my card, where I keep my cardstock, and I'll find, oh, look, I have 48 black labels. What am I going to do with those? But when the time comes, I shall be prepared. Okay, so here we go. I think I have that. And I hope it is straight because I used glue. And you know with glue, it gives you the wiggle room, but once it's down, baby, it is down. Okay, so I see I have a little bit of little furries hanging off there. So now you can see, I just noticed there's a little bit of, and actually that might be glue. I thought it was embossing, but as soon as this dries, I can take that right off with my adhesive remover. So now I have this really cool, more dimensional card because it has, it's popped up there. So I have to see which way I like it better. So here on the inside, what I did is I just stamped this beautiful, bold, "Let's Celebrate You," and I did that in black on the inside. And so, And I'm doing this first because I'm going to put some flowers up in the edge, and I want to know that this has enough room. So what I'm going to do is go right into the center. I always use my grid paper as like a horizon line. And then I'm just going to go right in the center. Let's celebrate you. Oh, this is a beautiful, beautiful sentiment here. It's so bold and the font is so pretty. So let's celebrate you. And then I want to put some flowers up here. And why did I put them up there? Not because I made some wonderful design decision, but I did it because I didn't want to remove my stamp from my Stamparatus so many times. That's why it's really nice to have extra plates, because sometimes I'll think, oh, I'm going to come back and make more cards. And sometimes I do. Sometimes I then just have to say after a week, hey, just get done with it. Okay, so what I did was I looked where I could put a flower, okay? And so I just put it into my Stamparatus. This would be a great time to use your magnet, except for I have my magnet set on another Stamparatus, so I know that I'm going to be inking up right here, this part of the flower. So I put some black on there, and I came back and I stamped that portion. And I'll lift it up. And then I just have that part of the flower, and then I can just color it in with my blends. And I'll have the inside of my card done. So let me move my Stamparatus out of the way here. So that would go onto the inside of my card. There we go. And I'm going to use my adhesive remover to get that little boogie off there. And then I will use my snail in the corners of the card, and we'll just put that in there, and then we would just color in with the old olive and the daffodil, and we have that card there. So we're going to see what the photos look like, how different they look, but you can either make it flat or you can raise it up. Now, you could have raised this up on dimensionals, but you tend to have a little bit of wobbling unless you put a ton of dimensionals on there. And then when you're placing it, it's a little more difficult. So get some of that fun foam at the craft store. It has been really fun to play with. I used to have it when I was teaching all the Sunday school classes when my kids were little. But there you go. You've got 2 cards there made with cutting up your front panel and then popping in a sentiment there. Again, thanks to Jennifer McGuire for her inspiration. If you are interested in any of making one of these cards, remember you can go to my blog, cindyleebdesigns.com, for all the measurements. And I have an online store there. You can shop 24/7. You know how we are at 11 o'clock at night trying to find what we want. So I would love if you gave me a thumbs up on YouTube. Subscribe to my blog, cindyleebdesigns.com, and you will be notified when I make a post. I like to keep up-to-date, current Stampin' Up! News and promotions, but I also like to give you inspiration and ideas and tips for stamping. So just feel free to buzz over there, subscribe to the blog. I like to post my videos on Wednesdays. I'll have a new video up on YouTube. So I would like to thank you for buzzing by, friends.